They were locked behind stone walls over 2 meters thick. No trial, no witnesses, no mercy. Married women, some barely older than girls, disappeared inside the shadowed castles of Vlad the Impaler. Their husbands never saw them again. No explanations, no letters, no graves. Only silence, and the cold echo of iron doors slamming shut. And what Vlad did to them was so extreme that even his closest allies refused to repeat the details aloud. Today, you will discover what really happened to the married women imprisoned inside Vlad's castles, and why large parts of Europe tried to erase this story from history. Vlad III was not simply a ruler. He was a living symbol of fear. Born into a violent and divided world, Vlad ruled Wallachia, a small but crucial region trapped between two great powers, the Kingdom of Hungary and the expanding Ottoman Empire. His childhood was marked by trauma. Taken as a political hostage by the Ottomans, he saw cruelty not as an exception, but as a language. And when he finally claimed his throne, he did not rule with diplomacy. He ruled with terror. Impaling became his signature method of punishment, a slow, public, unforgettable warning to anyone who dared challenge him. To Vlad, fear was not a consequence of power. It was the very tool of rule. And among all the groups that crossed his path, none would become more mysterious and more defenseless than the married women locked inside his castles. They weren't warriors. They weren't rebels in armor. They were wives. Some were married to noblemen accused of treason. Some were married to soldiers who had spoken against Vlad. Others were simply connected to families he considered unstable, disloyal, or corrupted. Many of them had children. Many had done nothing wrong. But in Vlad's world, guilt wasn't always personal. Sometimes it was inherited. Sometimes it was symbolic. And sometimes it was simply convenient. They were taken quietly, at night. No public explanation, no official charges, just a knock on the door, the heavy sound of boots on stone, and then disappearance. To the outside world, it was as if they had never existed. But deep inside the stone walls of Vlad's castles, their story had only just begun. The lower levels of Vlad's castles were never meant for light. Narrow staircases spiraled downward into darkness that seemed to swallow sound itself. The air was thick with moisture, cold, heavy, rotting. Iron chains hung from the walls, rusted and creaking, as if they remembered the hands that once touched them. The floors were damp stone. Water dripped slowly from the ceiling, each drop echoing like a heartbeat counting time. No windows, no clocks, no concept of day or night. Only the slow passage of fear. Some women were kept in isolation for weeks. Others were grouped together in silence, forbidden to speak. And in that darkness, imagination became torture. They could hear distant screams, footsteps passing, stopping, moving on. Sometimes, silence that lasted too long. Some of them would never see sunlight again. But the true cruelty of the place was not only in the body, it was in the mind. Vlad the Impaler did not always rely on physical pain to break people. With the imprisoned married women, he chose something far more calculated: psychological punishment, humiliation, isolation. Some were forced to work deep inside the castle, in complete darkness, their identities stripped away until they were no longer seen as women, but as shadows. Others were made to hear what happened to their husbands. Not the sight, not the act, just the aftermath. Voices of guards whispering, chains dragged along stone, footsteps that never returned. Some were told that their families had abandoned them. Some were told that their children had been taken. True or not, it shattered them. Vlad didn't need to watch them suffer. He only needed to know they were suffering. In his mind, this was not cruelty. It was control, a living message to the world. No one was beyond his reach, not even behind sacred vows of marriage. And in some instances, the women were not executed immediately. They were kept alive as examples, as reminders, as warnings carved into flesh and memory. Their pain wasn't private. It traveled, whispered across borders, turned into legend, and Europe was listening. News traveled slowly in the 15th century, but fear travels faster than horses. Merchants, envoys, clergymen, all spoke of strange disappearances in Wallachia, of wives vanishing, of castles no one dared approach after sunset. Soon, the stories reached Hungary, then Italy, then France. Even the Vatican became aware. Some dismissed the claims as exaggeration. Others believed every word. To some, Vlad was a savage monster who had betrayed Christian morality. To others, he was an uncompromising defender of Europe against the Ottoman threat. But one thing united them all. The name Vlad was no longer spoken normally. It was whispered, in taverns, in royal halls, in monasteries. The man was becoming a legend made of blood and silence, and the married women of his castles had become part of that legend. To understand Vlad, you must understand fear. He had watched his own family betrayed. He had lived as a prisoner. He had seen power used without mercy. And he learned a single lesson. To survive, you must become more feared than those who wish to destroy you. Vlad believed betrayal came not only from soldiers and nobles, but from the home, from relationships, from hidden influence. In his twisted logic, punishing wives was punishing the unseen networks of power behind the throne. He wasn't destroying women, he was destroying potential threats. At least, that's how he justified it. But history would never see it that way. To the world, he was not just a ruler anymore. He was a warning. Centuries passed, and the names of those women were lost. There were no official lists, no proper records, no monuments. Many documents were burned, others hidden inside church archives or private collections. Because in those times, the voices of women were not considered history. They were considered shadows. Their suffering became footnotes, whispers, ghosts in stone. But the walls remember. Some visitors to the old ruins still claim they feel an unusual cold, as if those stories never truly left. Their names may be forgotten, but what they endured will always be part of the darkness left behind. Vlad the Impaler ruled a country, but the women locked inside his castles ruled his nightmares. Their lives, their silence, their suffering became part of the very legend that made him immortal in history. And as long as his name is remembered, so should theirs. Because history isn't only written by kings. Sometimes, it's engraved in the walls of forgotten prisons by those who never escaped. Long pause. And in our next episode, we'll reveal what Vlad did to the women who tried to replace them. An act so unforgivable it shook all of Europe.